Hello everyone, this is Venom, and we are here with our first Monster Hunter Wilds tips and tricks video. This is going to be a combination of new and advanced tips. This is going to be for beginner and veteran players. These are tips I've gotten throughout my own playtime of the game. I'm currently in the in-game and grinding out, so I figured I'd go ahead and share some tips with you. Now, first off, your weapon. Now, after the opening cutscene, you're going to be given the Hope Greatsword. You're going to have it equipped automatically, but before you even begin your first hunt, it's going to place you in front of an item box. Inside that item box is going to be all 14 weapons available to you. So you don't have to start off with the Greatsword. You can choose any of the weapons. You can even practice with them right then and there before your first hunt. So you will also get to keep these as well. Like, let's say you chose the dual blades and you do your first hunt, which you want to try something else later. You don't got to go and recraft those other weapons. All 14 of these are going to be available to you. They are yours to keep. The game is pretty good about giving you all the starting weapons, so you don't really have to, scramble to make a decision. You can choose whatever you want, get used to it, and then go from there. Next up, the tabs. Now, unfortunately, the options tabs are kind of a mess. By default, there's even one here that's like recent, and it switches every time you look at it. For the first hour or two of the game I was playing, I swear it seemed like the save button kept swapping where it was at. So I highly recommend making a favorites tab on here and just editing all the tabs you want on there, including, by the way, the pause button. Now, to edit your tabs, simply open up the start menu, and then I'm playing on a PlayStation controller, so hit Y and go to edit tabs. You go to edit tabs, and it'll actually show you all these tabs here that you can turn on and off. Now, for some reason, by default, there's a lot of these tabs you cannot turn off. I don't know why they even have the option there, but whatever. I highly suggest turning off the recently viewed tab, turn off the recently updated tab, and then turn on your favorites menu. Okay? Pop out of there, and you will then have your favorites menu. Now, these are all going to be blank when you initially open it up. I've actually gone through. You actually go through, and you hit. You go down to Edit Favorites. Press triangle, just like you did Edit Tabs. Go down to Edit Favorites. And you can actually edit your favorites tab. Now, as you can see here, for mine, the first thing I did was put pause, so I can it's right at the top of the list. So I can pause very quickly if I need to. Then I place all the other things that I use a lot on here. I got my crafting list here. Don't even really use it that much, but I needed something else on here. Mission info, return from quest, save, member list, which is where you can find your friends, equipment info, options, return to title screen, and quit. All these are pretty much spread out over like 5 other tabs. This makes things so much easier. Next up, again, I talked about it just a second ago, but the pause button. There is a pause button for Monster Hunter. Now, I don't remember, I'm going to be honest, I don't remember if the older games had a pause button. I didn't even bother to go back and check. I don't think Wilds, or not Wilds, I don't think World or like Rise did, but regardless, I don't even think the older titles did. They may have, but this one does. Now, again, this is not going to work inside the lobby, so right now I'm in a lobby. Even though this is a private lobby, it's just me in here, I can't pause the game. But that's because, again, I'm in a lobby, and it's basically a safe zone, so no need to pause. Now, once you're out and about, once you actually start a hunt, if you want to pause it, again, open it up, hit the pause button, and you are good to go. Next up, your radio menu. I highly, 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 highly recommend, and trust me on this, that you add your world map and your detailed map to your radio menu. The reason is, look in the bottom right now. You see it says Environmental Overview Update. Well, to get that off your screen, it's the same button it takes to open up the map and open up your start screen. It's a real pain in the butt, and I really wish they would take that out. Basically, as there's things going out in the world right now, if there's a new event that pops up, or if there's a monster that pops up, or like a outcrop or something pops up, anything rare, any kind of announcement, it pops up on that right-hand side. It wouldn't be a problem, but if you're like coming out of your tent, your announcements pop up, or you want to go into your map, well, you can't open up your map until you clear all the announcements that pop up. And when you first log in, there can be quite a few that pop up. In fact, let's see if I can make one do it right now. If I go into my tent, now oftentimes when you go in and out of your tent, one pops up automatically. Let's see if it does it. It may not, but we'll check. Nope, one didn't happen this time. But typically when you're coming in and out of your tent, oftentimes one's going to pop up, and it really makes things a bit of a pain. It slows you down. Now, if you add your maps to the radio menu, you don't got to worry about that. You don't got to worry about clearing the announcement. Go right to your map, because you're going to be doing a lot of traveling around in this game. So keep that one in mind. I highly, again, recommend putting them on your radio map, both the detailed map and the world map. And trust me, you will thank me later on. Now, next up, this is going to be a bit of a spoiler alert, so keep that one in mind. But for you veterans, you're probably going to be wondering, where's the farm at? You need to collect honey, you need to get sleep herbs, you need to get paramushrooms, you need to start gathering things up, and you want to start getting your farm going. Well, there's not going to be a farm in Monster Hunter Wilds. Instead, you're going to be getting item gatherers, basically villagers that are going to gather items for you, instead of the farm. Now, it's going to be completely post-game, basically, so don't look for it during the main story. In fact, my next tip is going to be talking about the story, but don't look for it during the main story. Don't even try to worry about anything but the main story. Get through it, trust me. But yeah, your gatherers are going to be gathered near the end. You're going to have to unlock them by doing quests, so there is not going to be a farm. I actually speculated that we would have a farm. I thought the farm guys were going to be up here, because they are usually kind of the barbarian guys are the ones in charge of the farm. This was not it. So yeah, you're gonna get your gatherers post game. So don't worry about rushing until then. And believe me, you're not gonna need them until then anyway. My next tip, and this one is probably gonna be even more important for you veterans. I highly recommend just focusing on the main story your first time through playing. I mean, you're probably only going to play through once, maybe twice. We grind these games a lot. But regardless, when you start the game, I highly, highly recommend you focus on the story. Monster Hunter Wilds has delivered the best story experience of any Monster Hunter game I've ever played. I put that in my review. I talked about it before. Again, not the best story. I mean, it's a Monster Hunter game. We don't expect them to have any crazy story. The story was pretty good for this one, but the experience was even better. Now, you may be saying, well, you got to stop and you got to hunt a lot of monsters to get your weapons and your armor to continue. For the low rank, it does not take a lot of parts to make any kind of set. I didn't kill a monster more than twice to get its entire set in low rank. Now, again, that's low rank. And high rank, then you're going to go back to those traditional sets. You're going to need a lot more parts to drop from monsters, a lot rarer pieces. But in low rank, it seems like the devs designed the low rank grind system to help you along your story journey quicker. You don't got to stop and grind as much. You can, kill a monster once in the story. Maybe you got to go back one more time and get it to slay it one more time to get the parts you need to finish off your set, and then you're good to go. So it seems like everything is conducive to helping you along with the story, and I highly, highly recommend you just play straight through the story. It's going to take a good amount of time. You're still going to be doing hunting. It's not going to be boring. And trust me, for a Monster Hunter game, it's going to be an amazing story. It really is. Now, next up, trapping monsters. Now, this is something that, unfortunately, the game does not explain very well in Wilds. This is something that explained better in older games. And canon-wise, it's kind of a shame, because this is something that's always been kind of a tradition in Monster Hunter games. That is trapping monsters. Now, again, I like the canon of the game. I really love it, but we're not just monster killers. We're not just monster slayers. We're ecologists. And in the canon of that, you will typically get more rewards for trapping a monster than you will for just slaying it. Now, in most hunts, it's going to say hunt the monster. Now, when it says hunt the monster, that means you can either A, slay it, or you can B, trap it. Now, if you slay it, you can carve it 3 times. You get some points or some parts off of it. But if you capture it, not only are you going to get the parts that you would have carved off of it, but you will also typically get additional parts. It's usually much better to capture a monster than it is to slay it, and that kind of goes into the canon of the story. Now, how do you capture a monster? Well, to capture a monster, first you have to weaken it. Now, you typically got to get it down to about, I think, like 10-20%. I want to say 10% health, but you're going to get it down, and as you're hunting the monster, you're going to notice it start to get weaker and weaker. Now, every monster had its telltale signs that it's getting weak. In older games, it was much harder to tell when a monster was getting weak and when it was ready to capture. Some creatures like the Yian-Kut-Ku, they would pull their ears behind their head, and you could definitely tell that it was time to capture them. When they started to walk away, they would flinch, or they would kind of limp. Well, in the newer games, they actually give a pretty big hint on how to do it. Now, right now in the background, I'm hunting a Chotacabra alive here. Now, in the mini-map in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see it's got skulls over its head. That means it's slow enough to capture. Now, how do you capture it? Hopefully my Palico didn't kill it before then. So to capture it, you're going to need traps and you're going to need trank bombs. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to either put down a pitfall trap or a shock trap and trap the monster in it. Okay, when they touch it, they're going to get, sucked into it, or they're going to get stunned by it. Now, once you do that, you're going to hit it with 2 trank bombs. That should capture the monster. Let's see if I can get this monster. Going to go ahead and run to his den. We're going to meet back at his den, and I'm going to demonstrate how to trap him. So you can see right here, this monster's run all the way back to its den. That's something else that they're going to do when they get low on health, to try to run back to their den so that they can rest. Now, if they're resting, they will get health back, so you do want to kind of do this quickly. But right now, I've got my shot track loaded, so I'm going to go ahead and put it down. As soon as the monster touches it, he'll be stunned. Then I'm going to take 2 trank bombs, toss them on the ground right on top of him, and boom, the monster is captured. Now again, this has a few benefits. One, there are some parts that you would typically get more of or only get by trapping the monster. Now two, because the monster is weak and you're not actually having to slay it, that means you actually get to finish the hunt quicker. Now again, this seems like it might be overpowered, and it is. Again, that is for a reason. That's because we're ecologists. Trapping the monster is typically going to be better than killing it. Now, there are some monsters you can't trap. For example, elder dragons you can't trap. There are some special monsters you can't trap, and there are some monsters that can escape certain traps. For example, Zinogre in Monster Hunter World cannot be trapped easily with a shock trap. If you try to trap an electric monster with a shock trap, it typically won't work. Now, I say typically because what you can also do is you can get a monster low. You can hit it with 2 tranq bombs first. It'll still be in its system. It'll still have that tranquilizer procced, and then trap it in a trap. Now, if you do something like that, oftentimes the electric monsters, they're not going to be able to break out of it because the second they touch it, they've already been tranked. They're going to go down. So keep those in mind. The only downside to trapping is that you have to craft the traps. Now, you have to buy the trap parts from the stock or the provision stockpiler. You need to buy the trap tools. You cannot make these, unfortunately. You never have been able to, but you can make 2 traps from these: the pitfall trap and the shock trap. Now here we go. You can see the crafting material or crafting recipes for the traps. The shock trap takes a trap tool and a thunderbolt capacitor. The pitfall trap takes a trap tool and a net. And to make a net, it is ivy plus a spider web. So shock traps are typically easier to make. They are quicker to deploy, and they're a big favorite of mine. Pitfall traps are the OG. They still work wonders, and they obviously were going to work on creatures that would not be able to be stunned by an electric trap. One more thing, too, when you put down a trap, you can only put them down in certain spots sometimes, so a lot of times you can't put them in water, places it wouldn't make sense to put down a trap. And if you put one down, something new that they added in, I don't think they did it in Rise, but it's definitely here in Wilds. If you put down a trap and the monster walks past it and you want to pick it back up, you can now pick it back up. Before you couldn't. The trap was just there. You couldn't pick it back up. It was just useless unless the monster came back and stepped in it. Now you can actually pick them back up and reuse them, which is nice. Now once they step in it and set it off, it's gone. But keep that one in mind. And finally, to make the tranq bombs, you're going to need a lot of those. You're going to need sleep herbs and parashrooms. Once you get to the end game and you can unlock your item gatherers, that's when you're really going to be able to get these going. In the meantime, I wouldn't go out of your way to make tranq bombs and the traps until you're in the end game. If you want to, you can go ahead and do it. Go ahead and get a few more parts, but it's not necessary. But if you want to go ahead and take the extra time to do it, it will end your hunts quicker. Now, finally, if you're trying to go up hunter rank, or if you're just trying to like farm a certain monster, something that I notice here too, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't know if this is a scummy thing to do or if this is a helpful thing to do. But I'm going to tell you what I kind of discovered when I was farming, and you guys let me know what you think about this, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that figured this out. Now, in previous games, specifically Monster Hunter World, because that's the one I can remember the most, when you went to join an SOS or you went to go join somebody's quest, which you can do because it's a multiplayer game, it would show you how far into the quest they were. Like, for example, this one here, it says that it was started 4 minutes ago. Now, the way it used to work is that after a quest had reached 10 minutes, if you joined it, you would not be able to get the materials you weren't going to get any rewards for completing that because too much time had passed. And that seems to no longer be a thing. Okay, so let's say I just wanted to farm Master Rank, or I just wanted to find some easy quests to knock out real quick. Well, what I would do is I would go through and I would look for any quests that had been started a while ago that only had like 1 or 2 people in it. So, for example, I would look here, these started, 1 minute, 3 minutes ago. This one here started 9 minutes ago, so I know that one's already, pretty far along. So I can go in and I'm going to have that much less time I really got to worry about fighting. This one, for example, this is a Gore Magala that's been going for 15 minutes. It's got auto accept on it. I'm going to hop in and I'm going to see just how quickly we're going to finish up the rest of this quest. Alright, there you go. I hopped in this quest. I was in here maybe maybe a minute, and it's already over. So I'm going to show you guys that, and you get to saw it live. You saw the entire quest that I was in here for, and you see I got all the rewards for it. So that's where I got to admit, I don't know if this is a good tip, a bad tip, a scunny tip, if this is something that's going to hurt the community. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't know. Now, in this example, I joined in on a guy who was just on his last revive, and I was able to help him overcome that. We knocked it out pretty quickly. There are others, I mean, it just depends. I mean, if you go into an older quest and you just take other lives, then it's pretty bad. But if you're a more experienced player, you know you can get past it. You want to go into an older one and get some easy materials. Again, it's you guys have to tell me if this is a scummy tip or not. I don't know, but joining old hunts is a way I've been kind of helping to grind myself up to hunter rank 100. I have not had a ton of time to play, so let me know down in the comments below if you guys think this is a good tip or not. Next up, you can make loadouts for your items and for your gear sets. So for your items, you can actually set up items here. Make sure you check the buttons on the bottom of your screen to see what the controls are. For mine, if I press down the left stick, I can open up the loadouts. I can save 10 pages of loadouts. Looks like 80 total. I've got one loadout here I save. I just select it, hit yes, and it fills up and makes my item pouch exactly what that one is. So this is my basic hunting setup. I got my traps, I got my trank bombs, I got my flash pods, I got all my healing stuff, and that's just automatically in there, assuming I've got everything. Now right now it looks like I'm low on mega potions right now, so I actually got to go through and make some mega potions. Go through the crafting list, make a bunch, yada 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 yada, and then if I go and go ahead and select that now I've got all the mega potions because I have enough in my box. Now you can do the exact same thing with your equipment. So with your equipment sets, again, check what the controls are on the bottom. If you're messing around with your equipment, you can go ahead and save. Now this one, you've got 140 slots. You typically get a generous amount of slots to save your gear. There's tons and tons of builds in Monster Hunter, and you're going to go through a lot. I think in World, I ended up saving half the slots they had. I think they had more than this with just gear sets and just different stuff I was working on. Like right now, I've got my main set that I've got on right now. I've got my gathering set. I've got a loadout I use to test stuff, and I've got one that I just call Reaper that's just got a sight on it. That's cool. So I'll eventually have more and more of these, but yeah, you can save your build. So that's going to be a huge one. I highly suggest if you're working on a build and that you make a lot of saves for it. Think of it like an RPG, or like an RPG play. Like imagine playing Final Fantasy VII or something. Save often and save in multiple slots in case something happens to your other set there. So that is probably going to be one of the bigger tips I got for you. And finally, as far as layered armor, you will access layered armor in the post game. Again, this is going to be mainly for you vets asking about it. Now, to actually access your layered armor, it's a bit different. Now, whenever you buy a high-ranked set, you're going to automatically unlock the layered armor version of it, so you don't have to craft the layered armor anymore. But again, it's going to be for the high-ranked stuff. So you make a high-ranked piece, and you will have that piece of layered armor. Now, how do you access it? Well, if you go in here to your armor set, there's no actual spot to show you where, or it doesn't tell you where you can put on the layered armor. To put on the layered armor, you got to go into your tent, and you want to go all the way to this last tab here under the appearance. Now, from here, you can change your appearance. But you want to go to equipment appearance. Open it up, and from there you can go ahead and equip whatever you want to as far as your different fashions, as far as your layered armor. Now right here you can see these are all the pieces of gear I bought myself that I've crafted. So because I've crafted these, I can use all of these for my layered armor. Now unfortunately it does not seem as though the layered armor sticks to your specific set only. The layered armor only seems to have one set. Now again, it's got the loadout, but it does not seem to. I haven't messed around with it too much. I've got the loadout. I've got my main loadouts. I haven't messed with this one too much, but you can go ahead and register it. In World, it set it up to where it would actually ask you if you wanted to save your layered armor loadout on the current loadout armor you had. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it does not seem to ask you here. But that is how you apply your layered armor in Monster Hunter Wilds. Alright folks, that is it. That is my first tips and tricks videos for Monster Hunter Wilds. As I go ahead and look up some videos, I'm going to see what other people have kind of figured out too, because I've still got a few other questions I want to ask about some things. But as I get more tips and tricks, I am going to bring those to you. Here, I'm about to start. I think the next time I'm going to put out is going to be my my tips and tricks on how to fight every single monster. Now, I've decided to go ahead and do that series using the Lance. I've been having really fun using the Lance in Wilds, I'm not going to lie. I've been using it a lot more than I have in my Charge Blade, and I'm supposed to be a Charge Blade main. So I'm probably going to do that entire series, kind of showing beginners how to fight each monster, what to look out for, and I'm going to do a Lance tutorial as well. So that is going to do it for today, guys. Thank you for coming by, and I will see you all on the next hunt.